All right, I think I can speak on behalf of the class when I say that most of us have a pretty busy schedule. I mean, you have to balance work, school, payments, house, being responsible and short. That gives us less time to do what we would like to do, and as a result, we just end up feeling stressed, angry, sad, you name it. So, what if I told you that how you feel could be affected by the surrounding environment around you? Mm, Right, I hope that in the next few minutes I will tell you why you should care about the environment and the aesthetics of the surroundings and nature. First off, some of you guys might be wondering, what do I mean about aesthetics? Well, I'm referring to the nature and surrounding things that are aesthetically pleasing, such as a park, a design of a building, a sleek design of a cool car. Those kind of affect you how you think about something rather when you look at a concrete truck and say, oh wow, that's ugly. It affects how you perceive and think about things in your life. A really personal example of aesthetics or that's pleasing to the eye for me would be the Chrysler building, which is a really fine example of Art Deco architecture, in my opinion. Well, I know it was built in 1929, and that was when the Great Depression happened. Later on, it became more of a symbol of hope, optimism, motivation for people like Muse. So now that you know how what I mean about aesthetics, let me tell you why it's important to care about it. Well, according to dailyscience.com, researchers have found out that the nature does, no surprisingly, affect how you think and affects how your brain works cognitively. And for example, they did a study where they showed two videos to people, one of oceans, like a scenic, serene image with waves crashing down the shores, and then the other they showed roadways and cars with like sharp objects, loud noises. And what they found out was that people who saw the video of the beaches and the waves, they were more calm, more relaxed, and it activated parts of the brain that allows them to think more better, like in sync. And when they showed the videos of the roadways, it actually blocked some parts of the brain that allow you to think intellectually. So that, I think, is going to prove that we should be aware of urban landscaping and the aesthetics around us because it will benefit us. Another study has shown that by ruralservicesnetwork.com is that people that live in urban areas like in New York, LA, they are less happier than people who live in the countryside, and that is correlated with them having not enough privacy or notion that they have space, because it's been shown that people are more happier when they think that they have an option of choice rather than being in a closed confined space like in a jail where you have no freedom of moving around. So that kind of shows that architecture does affect how we believe in stuff. Architecture, nature, and designs of things that we should pay attention to and use and amplify. So how can you benefit from aesthetics? Major cities around the world like Chicago and LA have redesigned how to think of urban landscaping. For example, in LA there are lots of parking lots, and now some of them are turned into parks and parklets where people could go be and for recreational use. And they're doing that because they kind of see what they kind of did wrong, like with the concretes, like in the LA River. That looks ugly like hell. And nowadays, yeah, that looks ugly. And now, like, Antonio Mayor Villaraigosa actually implemented a 50-year plan where they're going to revitalize the river by getting rid of most of the concrete around the downtown area and turning it, landscaping it so people could have access towards the river, with parks and trees and water and designs. Also, they in Chicago and New York City, they have been using rooftops now to use for gardens and farming and stuff, because we want to use better use of the space rather than go far away to the countryside to get the thing. And well, it makes people it helps out the urban environment better, in my opinion. So how can you benefit from the aesthetics and nature from the environment? Well, one thing that I do is, like, if I'm really stressed out and I want to be calm, I kind of take the scenic route to work or school because that helps you relax more better when you see nature and the place. Kind of makes it feel like you're a place in the world and the universe, knowing that nature has always been there and makes you feel more relaxed. And also, if you feel like you're in a crowded place or stuff, just imagine something scenic, or put plants around your house. Just integrate more green into your place. Well, I hope that I showed you why you should care about aesthetics, and hopefully you might be paying more attention to the surroundings around you and observe that you should really pay attention to how we do urban landscaping. Thank you.
Okay, I thought the attention grabber was really good, and the thesis was pretty clear about why we should care about the environment. Two things I thought that were most effective was that it was organized pretty well. I like how you cited most of the case studies, and the personal example at the end, it was kind of like advice, which was nice. Two improvements that I would recommend is make eye contact with the whole class. You're kind of just like looking at the camera, and it's just kind of weird. And then a stronger overview of the subject. But overall, you did a good job.
All right. I thought you had a good attempt at the beginning to kind of create some unification for the audience where everybody can identify with what you're talking about. I think that works in pulling us in a bit. I think you start off sounding like you're going to make a claim of fact that this has an effect on us, but it does seem to kind of morph into this value topic also about how important aesthetics are. So the two things are connected to each other. I don't see them as being problematic. At the end of the speech, you were making some policy arguments. I think you need to have a little bit sharper goal at the beginning of the speech. I know what the topic is. I know generally what you're saying about it. At the end, what is it you want us to do, think? How do you want us to act? That needs to be, I think, sharper and clearer at the beginning of the speech. You had some good examples of public aesthetics that have an effect on us. I thought there were internal transitions that were easy to follow. To me, it always seems a little strange that anybody thinks that there's a reason that we have to spend time and energy studying. Now, which one of these environments is going to make you feel calmer and better, and which one's going to make you feel more uptight? And then you've got the natural environment versus, an urban environment. I'm never surprised that the results of the study that does that stuff says, the urban environment creates some kinds of problems. I do think what you say is that the problems have to do with blocking our thinking and maybe preventing us from living up to our potential as much. I think that needs a little bit more development as an argument. I'll tell you what, there's another issue that's creeping up here that you get to when you talk about issues of space and the impact it has on people's sense of happiness. You're talking about the kind of planning thing that requires parks and all those sorts of things. One of the controversial ways in which people are trying to change the urban landscape has to do with creating high-density housing developments as a way to reduce the stress, for instance, on public transportation or cut down on commutes or any of those kinds of things. But all of that seems to be antithetical to the subject that you're talking about. And so there is, I think, a little bit of controversy on those kinds of things. And what you seem like you are kind of advancing is something between those. In other words, these public spaces that might give us some benefit. The LA River Project, for instance, I think you could go into that in a lot more detail, explain what it's supposed to do. The likelihood that it's going to get developed the way it is, I mean, like you said, it's a 50-year project that they're talking about. I don't know how much money it's going to be, and I don't live in Los Angeles, so I don't have to worry too much about paying for it. So, whatever they want to do that's their business, I guess. If that's going to be a model for the way other people could do things, then maybe there's a way that you could show us how it would be something that would work in our neighborhoods, or something that might work in areas around here, for instance, where we happen to be currently. The example of rooftop gardens are mentioned, but only in passing. I think you want to give us some illustrations about how the residents of those buildings feel about having the rooftop gardens. Here's an opportunity to get some emotional involvement by talking about how residents of buildings in cities that have rooftop gardens feel more satisfied or more connected to their neighbors, or they're calmer, or they're able to think better, or something along those lines. And we don't really get any proof on that, so it feels a little bit underdeveloped. Like I said, at the end it feels like you're talking about taking an action, but the actions seem a little underdeveloped. I thought you did a pretty good job delivering the speech. Your audience contact is usually solid, although I understand what Bree's talking about. You are kind of focused on the center of the room here. Don't forget everybody else. And you're not really overly dependent on the notes. You do a nice job speaking to us. I'll tell you what, you sounded pretty fluent and confident right up until the last minute of your speech. And I think you saw the finish line coming up, and it just felt like you suddenly, started rumbling or stumbling toward the end. And I don't know if it's noticeable. Maybe it's just me. When you watch it back, see if you can tell, because like I said, I thought you were doing a really solid job before that, and then in the last minute it just feels a little rough around the edges and probably could use a little practice. Thank you.